Hello and Happy New Year, everyone. This is Kalamazoo Public Library's Book Thoughts, the January 2021 edition. I am Miss Natalie, the lead teen librarian.
And I'm Mr. Bill, the lead children's librarian here at KPL. We're super excited to tell you about some of our favorite picks from the children's and teens collections at the library.
Our first book today is a young adult book by Stasia Tolman called The Spaces Between Us. I really enjoyed this book. This book is about a couple of girls who are small town girls, they're friends in high school, and one of them is given an individual study project by her Western civilization teacher, individual study being a project that she works on her own, and she's decided to take a look at classism and upward mobility. As she's doing that, she starts noticing things about her life and the lives of those around her, and she's taking more notice. And it's really sort of a coming of age story that gives you an idea of how it is that teenagers begin to grow up and how they start to look around themselves. And this is good for older teens. This is one of our young adult books, even though a lot of our books in our young adult selection are for ages 11 and up. This one's a bit older, so it's good for high schoolers who are interested in fiction but want something very different from your traditional fantasy or any sort of magic or sort of fluffy reading, fluffy fiction. This is something that really makes you think. I really enjoyed it. It is a bit of a heavy topic, but it does have a little bit of a happy ending, and so I found that it's really great, and it's wonderful that the author trusts her audience to read about something as intense of a topic as classism and upward mobility and poverty, and it helps to teach these kids resilience and perseverance. And it's very exciting.
Llama unleashes the alpacalypse. Yeah, I love the wordplay in this wonderful recent picture book from middle of 2020 by Jonathan Stutzman with pictures by Heather Fox. And this is one I'm really looking forward to reading in story time. So Llama, meet Llama, who loves cooking and loves food, and Llama loves to make food. Not so crazy about cleaning up food, but ever resourceful. Llama realizes that that all it's needed is a way to clone his friend Alpaca, because his friend Alpaca is kind of a neat freak, if you will. And so what's better than one neat freak to clean up after your cooking adventures? Well, lots of them. Well, of course, that unleashes the alpacalypse. But never fear, there is a solution at the end. I won't give that away. The illustrations are just so much fun. The wordplay is fun too. It's not only fun to play with words, it sort of gives adults and kids a fun way to parse word sounds into different bits and to see how those work. But I emphasize the fun. That's the most important thing, with the side effect of more language awareness, I think. I really think it's cool. It kind of mixes up sort of the feel of, I guess like Phineas and Ferb or something like that, with some anthropomorphized animals. Lots of great wordplay, and the illustrations are just super fun. Also, the picture book is divided into kind of like chapters. I don't want you to think it's a chapter book. It's not. But the organizational structure is around meals. So there's breakfast, and then there's dinner or lunch, and then there's dinner, and there's second lunch and second dinner. It's just lots and lots of fun with lots of cool illustrations to look at, cool details in the pictures. Llama unleashes the alpacalypse by Jonathan Stutzman, illustrated by Heather Fox. Hope you'll check it out.
Bewitch by Paige Mackenzie and Nancy Olin, a lovely young adult fiction book. And I have to make a confession. I know, I'm a librarian. I'm supposed to love reading all kinds of books. Not exactly the case. In fact, sometimes I struggle with fiction. This one was really good. It was really fun. I don't usually read a lot of fantasy and magic. I mean, other than the Percy Jackson movies or books that I obviously read. However, this one was really great. So, this one is about a new girl who is a witch who goes to a high school and she meets three other witches who are already in a little coven of their own. And so this is the four of them finding their way and they're forming this great friendship. And then a murder happens, and it becomes a murder mystery right in the middle of the book, which is completely unexpected. And I love the wild turn that it took. There's a lot of humor in this, which just makes it a ton of fun to read. So if you have got, or if you are interested, anybody in your life who just really likes reading something funny with some magic twists in there, and it's really great. It's just a lot of fun to read, particularly if you like some female protagonists who learn that they are stronger together than they are apart.
Why are there so many novels geared toward children that feature orphans as characters? It's really very compelling, I think. And the next book that I want to talk about is another one, Pine Island Home by the wonderful Polly Horvath. Is really a feel-good book, though the premise is based on the tragedy of sisters Fiona, Marlon, Natasha, and Charlie McCready are orphaned when their missionary parents are washed away in a tsunami. And they quickly find themselves in the care of an adult who knows their family, and then are shuffled around so that they end up going to British Columbia on the west coast of Canada to live with an aunt they've not ever met before. And then what makes this book really interesting is that when they finally arrive thousands of miles away on the other side of the world to where, they're eventually going to settle with this person who will adopt these four sisters, then they learn that that aunt has passed. And so they're on their own. And so it's hard to explain how this could possibly be comic at all. And it's certainly not only a comic novel. But Polly Horvath is really a really funny writer. She's got some great books, and she certainly injects humor into the characters and the interactions in Pine Island Home. Well, these four resourceful girls need to find a way to make it work. How can they continue to stay together, to not be sent away from this new home, and to really get away with going to school and caring for themselves. So it kind of evolves into that maybe fantasy for a lot of kids of, how would you live without adults? How would that work? Interesting to think about. And they do it very well with some wonderful adults as allies. From the principal at their school, who is really a wonderful character, and other adults. And then especially, this is also a story of redemption of the longtime friend of their aunt, who has passed. Aunt Martha has died unexpectedly, so they have to come up with this scheme to keep social services from separating the girls. And then their sort of grouchy neighbor, Al, who really was a longtime friend of dear departed Aunt Martha, really is a wonderful story of redemption for that character. So it's got a kind of a tragic beginning, but what a great feel-good novel this is, with some wonderful ups and downs and some unexpected twists and turns. And I think you'll really enjoy the way that Polly Horvath describes the natural world in coastal British Columbia, and the way that she describes the very human characters, children, and maybe especially the adults who are allies. How do they do all that? So check out Pine Island Home by Polly Horvath.
Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. So I am a huge Beauty and the Beast fan. I loved the Disney film from the 90s. I liked the new one they just made. Belle is my princess, and the whole thing with the beast, and then that library, that beautiful library. And then, to my surprise and my utter delight, this book comes out, Bookish and the Beast. It is a modern day love story twist on the Beauty and the Beast. Of course, it has a library in it, an awesome library. I absolutely love this book. I highly recommend it for any kid who's 14 years and older. There are some like con artists and a love story, so should be for older kids, but also adults if you like this. It's really a lot of fun, and I haven't read anything like this for young adults yet. So uh, basically she is something of a con artist, the protagonist, the female, and she has bills to pay. There's this family debt she has to take care of, and so she takes advantage of this kid who he's like a young Hollywood celebrity that goes to a small town to escape this paparazzi scandal. And they both put up a, I guess I would call it a mask, and it's about first impressions, and how telling lies to somebody, it doesn't allow you to get to know them, and how it kind of twists relationships and friendships in your life, and why you shouldn't do that. And so it's this really fun book about what happens if you meet someone that you like, that you want to get to know, but you're already caught in a lie. Like, how much deeper do you dig yourself in? Anyway, so fun. Bookish and the Beast by Ashley Poston. Highly recommend.
When Stars Are Scattered by Omar Mohammed, illustrations by Victoria Jameson, is just a beautiful book on so many levels. With ink by Iman Getty, the illustrations themselves are just lovely, but the story is amazing as well. And if this book was a picture book, it would go in our picture book neighborhood, all about community. This is Muhammad's memoir about his youth as a refugee at the Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya, as a refugee from the Somali civil war. He describes a community that is one of really people caring for each other in incredibly difficult situations. There's never enough food. There's scarcity everywhere, and so many people who have been forced, out of their homeland. I think it's really kind of hard to imagine a civil war where you need to go into a different country. In this case, they were in Kenya. And so heartbreaking on a lot of levels, but also incredibly beautiful because of people watching out for each other, and the fact that humanity endures, and that people's caring for each other exists in all kinds of environments. I don't think it's a plot spoiler to say that, again, this is a memoir, so this is based on the reality of Omar Mohammed really taking care of his younger brother, who's not verbal. He's developmentally disabled, and they've lost their parents. They were fostered by an amazing woman named Fatuma, who lost her own 4 sons in the Civil War. It's not a plot spoiler to say that Omar and Hassan end up being resettled by the United Nations to Pennsylvania, and that his dream of becoming a social worker is now his reality. So it's really an incredible memoir about about how families can how families work in a really specific, difficult environment. So I hope you'll check it out.
Of the books that I reviewed for this month, The Black Kids is easily my favorite one that I have read within the last several months, but it's definitely my favorite one that I'm offering to you now. It is not the easiest one that I read. This is an excellent, excellent book, though. It was highly recommended by Nick Stone, who wrote Dear Martin. The Black Kids by Christina Hammonds Reed is set in 1990s Los Angeles. I think the year is 92. It is about some high school kids who are living a charmed life. In particular, the one girl named Ashley is the protagonist and sort of the charmed girl of her friend group. She is also the only black girl in her friend group. And then, just as things seem to be sort of perfect in her life, the Rodney King LAPD scandal hits, where there was a video of LAPD using excessive force and being extremely violent with Rodney King. And when this happens and the country goes into uproar, it divided a lot of people. And now suddenly Ashley is no longer the charmed girl with her friends. She's just another black girl. And this book in particular covers through her eyes the way that something like this changes, and it shows her how people look at her. And it particularly shows her that for some of her friends, she was black first, human second. It is not an easy book to read, which is why it is for 14 years and up. It is an excellent book to read. I recommend it. Honestly, I agree with Nick Stone. This should be required reading for everyone. I have been personally particularly into black stories in the last year or so, reading extra or reading whatever I can get my hands on. This is one of my favorites. It does put me a little bit in mind of The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas, though this is slightly different. I do like that they covered a true story, something that did happen. Rodney King was a real person who was violently assaulted by the LAPD. And this is showing through her eyes how she's viewing this young black girl, and then how it's causing rifts between her and her friends. So, again, highly recommended. It is intense reading, but it is very much worth it.
Books about the presidents of the United States of America have long been a staple of public libraries' informational book sections. The Next President by Kate Messner and Adam Rex employs a really cool premise for a book about the presidents. The premise is that no matter who is president at this moment in time, the next president is already out there somewhere growing up. It might even be you. What a hopeful book this is. Books like Sophia Valdez, Future Prez by Andrea Beatty, who you may also know from Ada Twist scientist fame, feature kids who seem destined to be president one day. The Next President takes it one step further. I quote now, "When George Washington became the first president of the United States, there were 9 future presidents already alive in America, doing things like practicing law and studying medicine." Or closer to modern times, I like the way this book creates a bridge from the present to the past, or from the present into the future. But looking backward, in 1961, when John F. Kennedy was the youngest president to be elected to the office of the presidency, at 43 years old, when he took the oath of office, the next 10 presidents were alive then too. They were, not surprisingly, doing a variety of different things. It's really cool to think about when all of those people, and they all happen to be men, were younger. What were they doing? Well, anyone who's interested in American history will find that this is a really cool way to approach it. I am a fan of Kate Messner's recent history books that tell the real story, as in the parts that people aren't taught in school. Kate Messner is creating history books that that are changing the ways we understand the past and considering a more full picture of what happened and why. And I'm a really also a big fan of Adam Rex. He's certainly a prolific illustrator, and I think for good reason. I love the way the POTUSes are presented in The Next President. The illustrations, whether as young versions of themselves or as adults. The illustrations of lots of different Americans through time in the book portray the hopeful reality that the U.S. is always changing. And there's even a bibliography in the back. This is everything that excellent informational books for kids should be. So I hope you'll check it out.
Thank you for stopping by to January's edition of Book Thoughts with Mr. Bill and me, Miss Natalie. We really hope that you enjoyed the books and that you'll give them a chance. And we look forward to next month's video, February's Book Thoughts.